ever gonna die?
Try not to think about it.
Could be tomorrow. Could be 10 years from now.
Hey, Bill, you were a sharpshooter in the cavalry, weren't you?
What?
When we get there, maybe you could help with the suppression fire.
I never said I was no sharpshooter.
Oh, that's right. What was it? The nation's most loyal latrine digger. Wasn't that it?
Yeah, well, I fought, and I fought well.
So you always tell us.
You alright, Bill?
I mean, I get it. I get it. Oh, look, there's old Big Bill. Oh, look at him, ain't he so dumb? Well, I ain't so dumb. Why are you always so angry, Bill? Shut up. Shut up.
He's every right to be angry. He's been dealt a bad hand. I'd be angry too. You carry on, Bill.
I got feelings inside of me. Real feelings. Now, I know I'm not as smart as you, or Hosea, or Dutch. But I'm just as smart as Marston, or Arthur, or any of them. But it still hurts. It does. People calling you dumb. I can't remember what I was gonna say. I can't remember. You know, they say that's the first sign of madness. Just forgetting shit. You know, my dad started forgetting things. And it didn't turn too good for him in the end. I just hope that I'm not gonna have that kind of future.
Bill, please. They want to kill us all. I can help you.
Well, things are different now, John. No more Dutch! And no more you. Now I'm in charge!
The story of Bill Williamson in the Red Dead Redemption games is one of immense tragedy and horror. In fact, Bill's story is arguably one of the most tragic within both Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2. Bill Williamson is a staunchly loyal and steadfast member of the Vanderlyn gang in Red Dead Redemption 2. Bill maintains excellent relations with his fellow gang members despite being occasionally written off. For example, while sometimes dismissed by both particular gang members and fans of the Red Dead franchise as a hot-headed, blustering, stubborn, and belligerent shoot-first and ask-questions-later alcoholic, Bill is in fact a very nuanced, intelligent, caring, and thoughtful member of the gang, in addition to possessing an excellently timed sense of humor. Bill is not only very considerate with those in the gang, he also has tremendous features which indicate that he is a good person, who is regularly encouraged and watched over by arguably his closest friend in the gang, Arthur Morgan. While it certainly is true that Bill can be very hot-headed, belligerent, and stubborn, his true and positive features are often demonstrated much more frequently than his negative features, especially when he is interacting with other members of the gang in camp, and especially when Bill is accompanied by Arthur. It will be demonstrated that Bill in fact has a very resilient nature about him. He can sometimes come across as off-putting or aggravating to others. However, Bill will eventually prove to those that this isn't his true nature, and in fact, he is very capable of being a very steady presence and reliable, a good friend and presence in the gang who is supportive of others and maintains good relations. However, Following the decline and fall of the Vanderlyn gang, Bill eventually finds himself all alone in the southwestern state of New Austin, and slowly but surely over the years, Bill eventually degenerates into something he always feared and wanted to avoid, a fate that he should have avoided, but instead he tragically could not escape. By this point in Bill's life, all of his true friends were gone. Bill was alone, alienated, scared, and desperate. Unlike when he was in the Vanderlyn gang, Bill had no one left around him who genuinely cared for him and his well-being. Bill had no more brothers and sisters. Bill would find himself in an absolute cesspool and eventually surrounded by some of the most degenerate, sadistic, and depraved criminals within the United States. The exact year and date of Bill's birth is unclear. He was born between 1869 and 1872. Bill actually changed his first name to Bill from Marion, which was apparently a family name. Not much is known about Bill's youth and upbringing, but what we do know is that Bill had a hard and potentially traumatizing childhood. Bill's father was an alcoholic who heavily abused alcohol, and Bill witnessed his father firsthand lose his mind and succumb to madness. Bill observes that his father often mixed whiskey and moonshine together, forming a very potent and deadly mix. Bill also admits that he fears suffering the same fate as his father. It is unknown whether Bill had any siblings or a mother as well. During this time in his youth, Bill would eventually turn to crime, and despite entering a reform school, Bill would continue to break the law and commit crimes. Bill, however, would eventually try going on the straight and narrow path and enlisted in the United States Army. Bill was delegated to the 15th Infantry while he also served in the cavalry, in addition to gaining experience with explosives. Bill would end up fighting against Native Americans, which included terrifying and traumatic experiences that Bill would share with other members of the gang. Bill seemed to initially find his place and a sense of purpose in the Army. The Army would provide Bill with order, discipline, routine, and a straight and narrow pathway to potentially a better overall quality of life, in which he could potentially pursue a career and distinguish himself. However, Bill's trauma and demons would eventually catch up to him. He would also experience post-traumatic stress disorder as he served on the front lines in the US government's war of conquest and assimilation of Native Americans and the acquisition of their land and resources. Bill would ultimately be dishonorably discharged from the US Army on December 27, 1892, for deviancy and attempted murder. From here, Bill lived a very brutal existence for the following year, robbing people and abusing alcohol. A year after being discharged from the US Army in 1893, Bill would encounter both Dutch Vanderlyn and Hosea Matthews. Bill actually tried to rob them, but was dumbstruck when he realized Dutch and Hosea had taken all of his ammunition and they laughed. Bill was initially frustrated and furious. Dutch, and I imagine Hosea as well, treated Bill with kindness and would eventually welcome Bill into the gang, providing him with what he always sought, a home. By joining the gang, Bill would not only find a place and a purpose, but also looked up to and began admiring both Dutch and Hosea. Bill was no longer on his own and seemed to find his place, especially as he formed a very close and brotherly relationship with the gang's lead enforcer, Arthur Morgan. Just like Arthur Morgan, John Marston, and Javier Escuela, Bill would also become one of the main enforcers in the gang for the following 6 years. As a former US soldier, Bill possesses valuable experience which really benefits the gang. He underwent military training with weapons and explosives, performed guard-keeping duties, and scouted. He took orders, understood the chain of command, and was a veteran who served on the front lines, specifically in the US government's war on Native Americans. And just like Arthur, John, and Javier, Bill is very tough and a competent gunman. Bill has practical and very useful real-world skills and experience that only benefits the exploits of the gang. The Vanderlyn gang indulged in crimes such as robberies, fraud, and eventually loan sharking and extortion throughout the United States. Bill would further cement his relationship with Arthur, as well as Uncle, when the trio traveled to Canada and robbed a bank before 1899. Bill's closest friends in the gang include Arthur, Uncle, Lenny, Javier, John, and Hosea. However, by 1889, the Vanderlyn gang moved to the eastern United States and specifically to the state of West Elizabeth. The gang pitched their camp close to Blackwater, a large town that was growing into a small city. While Arthur and Hosea pursued a lucrative real estate scam around Blackwater, Dutch led the rest of the gang into a disastrous ferry robbery, in which the gang was ambushed by Pinkerton Detective Agency agents, police, and bounty hunters. A massive shootout ensued, and a massacre resulted, including the cold-blooded murder of Heidi McCourt, an innocent bystander and young woman who Dutch viciously shot in the head. Following the disaster, the gang fled north through West Elizabeth and into the northern state of Amberino, home to harsh mountainous weather and extremely cold temperatures. The gang would hide out in Coulter, an abandoned mining town. In the Chapter 1 mission, Old Friends, we first meet Bill Williamson, enjoying a joke by Lenny Summers at the expense of Micah Bell, who proceeds to blindside Bill with a petty cheap shot punch to the face. Bill is then enraged and is about to tear Micah to pieces when Dutch interjects, instructing Micah to stop it while directing the men's attention on ambushing a rival gang, the O'Driscolls, who have pitched a camp at Ewing Basin, an abandoned mining operation somewhat close to Coulter. As Dutch, Arthur, Javier, Bill, Lenny, and Micah head out on horseback, Dutch eventually discovers hoof prints in the snow. The men follow the prints, which eventually leads them to Ewing Basin. Dutch and Arthur proceed to conduct reconnaissance and then sneak into the camp and ambush the O'Driscolls. As they sneak in, Dutch assures Arthur that this isn't a revenge mission, and in fact, they are after any food and supplies they can find. Arthur initiates the ambush and the men eventually defeat the O'Driscolls. Soon afterwards, a second and large wave of O'Driscoll gunmen attack, but after a relentless defense, the gang fights off all of the O'Driscolls. Dutch then orders the men to search the camp and the bodies, and soon afterwards Micah discovers plans to rob a private train owned by oil baron Leviticus Cornwall, while Arthur locates dynamite and has Bill inspect the explosives, which he approves. With most of their objectives completed, the men set out from Ewing Basin to return to their makeshift camp at Coulter. As the men are riding back to camp, Dutch spots one of the O'Driscoll foot soldiers ahead of them on horseback. The same foot soldier that Dutch spotted Calm hitting before they entered the camp and ambushed the O'Driscolls. Arthur chases after the man and quickly apprehends him. Arthur stows the hog-tied man onto his horse and rides back to Coulter, as the man, Kieran Duffy, desperately pleads for mercy. Arthur arrives back at Coulter and brings Kieran to Dutch, who orders Bill and Uncle to tie Kieran up in the barn. Kieran protests that he hates the O'Driscolls, but it's to no avail. Yet despite the gang's recent troubles in Blackwater and fleeing north into Amberino in order to hide out and lay low, Dutch is adamant about robbing a train owned by oil baron Leviticus Cornwall, a robbery that apparently was being planned by the O'Driscolls, and specifically robbing the train for US bonds. In the mission Who the Hell is Leviticus Cornwall, the gang attempts to rob the private train. Bill is responsible for arranging the explosives in order to blow up the tracks and compel the train to stop. When the men have reached the location in which they plan to ambush the train, Dutch asks Arthur to assist Bill. When Arthur approaches Bill, their close friendship can easily be picked up on through the tone of their voices, reactions, and words they speak, or more specifically, how they talk to one another.
How you getting on?
Yeah, I'm okay.
You sure?
Of course.
Can I help a little?
All right. Go ahead and set up the detonator by those rocks over there.
Okay, sure.
Now just unspool the wire and then attach it to said detonator.
Even through these brief interactions, you're really left with a favorable impression of just how close they are. They've known and respected each other for years. Nonetheless, it's not quite clear whether it was due to Arthur or Bill, yet the explosives fail to detonate and the gang has no choice but to chase the train and haphazardly board it. While Arthur and Lenny are able to climb aboard, Bill and several others are not. Arthur and Lenny then fight their way through the train and eventually stop it. From here, a big shootout commences as Arthur and Lenny attempt to fight off Leviticus Cornwall's guards. The rest of the gang eventually catches up and the guards are taken out. Once Leviticus Cornwall's personal train car is discovered, in which the US bonds are located, there are also more of Cornwall's guards inside, however. Dutch tries to talk the guards into opening the door to the train car, yet they refuse to do so, so the door is blown open. And Micah, Arthur, and Lenny enter the car, with Arthur ultimately locating the bonds. With an improvement in the weather soon after robbing Leviticus Cornwall's private train, the gang leaves Coulter and travels south into the state of New Hanover and sets up camp in a well-hidden location called Horseshoe Overlook, located not far from the cattle town of Valentine. After setting up camp and getting acclimated with their new surroundings, Arthur meets up with Javier, Charles, and Bill at Smithfield Saloon in Valentine in the mission Americans at Rest. Arthur enters the saloon and sees Javier and Charles at the bar, who are accompanied by two women. Arthur implies to the women that he suspects they're prostitutes, which offends them, and the two women leave. As the three men enjoy a drink at the bar, Bill enters the saloon and immediately bumps into another customer who is trying to leave, but Bill is very drunk and immediately starts a fight by assaulting the man. The four men then engage in a brawl inside the saloon. Soon though, a very large man named Tommy joins the fight and attacks Javier. Arthur comes to Javier's defense but gets thrown out of a window by Tommy, and the two continue the fight outside in the mud and rain until Arthur eventually overpowers him and beats him to a pulp. Before Arthur can inflict any considerable harm onto the man, an onlooker approaches Arthur, a local resident in fact, Thomas Downs, who will later be featured in a main story mission, and pleads with Arthur to not do further harm. Arthur relents, gets up, and walks away. As Arthur is looking for somewhere to gather himself, catch his breath and rest, Dutch suddenly appears alongside Josiah Trelawney, a gang associate. Trelawney informs them that Sean McGuire, who was taken into custody during the gang's previous Blackwater robbery, which was a disaster that forced them to flee north to Coulter, and he is now being held by bounty hunters. Dutch orders Charles, Javier, and Trelawney to conduct reconnaissance around Blackwater, and Arthur to get cleaned up and meet up with them outside Blackwater when he can. But when Bill asks what he can do, Dutch is rude to Bill by mockingly repeating his question, yet Bill immediately calls Dutch out on his behavior. In the mission Paying a Social Call, Kieran is approached by Arthur after being held by the gang as a prisoner since the gang were hiding out in Coulter. Bill approaches with Dutch, and in order to compel Kieran to reveal information pertaining to the O'Driscolls, Dutch has Bill heat up tongs and threaten Kieran with a barbaric mutilation. Kieran divulges that they can locate Colm O'Driscoll at 6 Point Cabin, just slightly northeast of Valentine, and assures the men that he can take them there. Arthur, Bill, John, and Kieran then leave Horseshoe Overlook for a 6-Point Cabin. Just after leaving Horseshoe Overlook, Bill informs Arthur that he placed throwing knives in his saddlebag and that Dutch asked Bill to give them to him. Arthur, however, angrily replies that Bill should have just given the knives to him, as opposed to clumsily fumbling about with his saddlebag and then telling him about it. Bill is definitely awkward, and at times can be socially awkward, but Bill is well-meaning, and he often makes up for poor first impressions or putting others off with his resilient nature, and this will be further demonstrated. The men arrive at 6-Point Cabin and sneak close to the property. Arthur leads the men in and, along with Bill, they quickly and quietly take out a few of the O'Driscoll guards who are patrolling the perimeter of the property. The men then attack the O'Driscolls and take out the remaining guards outside of the cabin. As Arthur enters the cabin, an O'Driscoll bursts through from inside, knocks Arthur down and is about to kill him. However, the O'Driscoll is immediately shot and killed by Kieran, who saves Arthur's life. Although Arthur thanks Kieran for saving his life, he enters the cabin and Colm isn't inside and suddenly scapegoats Kieran that it was all a setup. Kieran, however, immediately observes that he just saved Arthur's life and he wouldn't have done so if it was indeed a setup. Bill, however, interjects as he immediately sees both the honesty and logic of Kieran. And this, however, is a very interesting moment indeed. Bill and John are being the considerate, thoughtful, and level-headed ones in the situation, while Arthur is in fact behaving in a very belligerent, stubborn, and hot-headed manner. Just like John, Bill immediately recognizes that Kieran is 100% genuine and not a threat to the Vanderlyn gang. Bill certainly is no fool, yet Arthur persists with his belligerency and stubbornness and tells Kieran that instead of killing him, he's allowed to go free, and then pushes Kieran, telling him to get out of here. Kieran, however, immediately points out to Arthur that forcing him out is as good as killing him. Colm O'Driscoll will be furious about the ambush at 6-Point Cabin, that Kieran would be on his own and that he's one of the Vanderlyn gang, saving Arthur's life while helping them fight the O'Driscolls. Kieran also kept telling the gang when they took him prisoner near Coulter that he hates the O'Driscolls. Bill and John both stare very tellingly at Arthur. Kieran is making perfect sense here as his logic is completely sound, while Arthur is being completely unreasonable and frankly, ridiculous. Kieran then asks if Arthur found the money and elaborates that the O'Driscolls will usually have cash stashed at their hideouts. Arthur then insists that he will look for the money while he orders Bill and John to take Kieran back to camp. He instructs Bill to inform Dutch that Kieran isn't worth killing, yet. Again, Arthur is demonstrating the worst aspects of Bill, persisting with the stubbornness. So Bill clearly isn't the only one in the gang who is prone to this kind of behavior. Yet unlike Arthur, he has this consistently held against him, while only Charles and Hosea recognize this and point out to Arthur how stubborn he can be.
No. Now go on, get out of here. Go, we need the land, go. Get the hell out of here!
They took off Ozza.
Who did?
Men, last night.
Where? Where did they take him?
Ain't no business of ours. I don't even speak their language.
You ain't as tough and dense as all that. Come on, Arthur.
Nonetheless, from Chapter 2 onwards in Red Dead Redemption 2, the player has much more freedom to not only explore the map and the extensive wilderness, but also can interact and spend much more time with fellow gang members within camp. Initially in Chapter 2, Bill's portrayal reflects not only his social awkwardness, but also the ill effects of his alcohol abuse, specifically its degenerative impact on brain neurons and intellectual capacity. The alcohol abuse impacts how he is received by some fellow gang members. Bill's alcoholism is definitely frowned upon by several gang members, and his social awkwardness also puts him at a clear disadvantage. Bill tries his best to fit in, but some just don't have any patience for his shortcomings.
All right, old man?
Sure.
Good. You know, we've been riding a long time together, haven't we?
Sure.
When I first met you, I used to think you were all stuck up.
I know. You told me a fair few times.
I did? Well, I'm sorry.
No, you ain't. I don't blame you. I used to think you was one sorry excuse for a man.
What? You've changed your mind since then, right?
Absolutely, Bill. We all have. Ain't that so, Arthur?
Sure.
What is it you called him? Sheep in wolf's clothing.
That's it.
Is that right? Well, thanks. Thank you.
Don't mention it. Find us some goddamn food.
Hosea, Dutch and you says we're supposed to keep a low profile.
Are you an imbecile or are you just pretending? Go rob a house. Ask some sheriff about a bounty. Shoot a godforsaken animal. I don't care. Do something.
Yeah. Sorry. I'll go. Soon.
Thank you.
Bill indeed contributes to camp.
I got all the fish you fools is about to eat.
I thanked you already. Wasn't that loud enough?
Keep up the good work.
I do my share and then some.
Okay.
Hosea doesn't hate Bill and actually looks out for him and his well-being.
Hey, Arthur.
Good old Bill.
Go easy on that stuff, Bill. Go easy on that stuff, Bill.
Hosea also respected Bill.
Mr. Williamson.
While it may appear that Bill is stealing from the camp's lockbox, this is the exact opposite.
You okay?
Hello, Arthur.
You been bringing in money?
Of course I have.
Okay, well, good.
As you can clearly see, Bill is in fact a caring and thoughtful member of the gang. Bill is steady and reliable, and overall, a nuanced character. Despite the fact that Bill doesn't help out with camp chores, he does contribute to the camp's funds and regularly performs guard duty. Incidentally, Javier also doesn't assist with camp chores, but just like Bill, he also contributes to the camp's funds and guards the gang's camp.
I know the feeling.
Hold still! Pearson said he's short a little meat for the pie.
Stop it! This ain't funny!
Oh, I disagree. Now, why are you so afraid of a pair of gelding tongs? I thought you were the horse
You ain't
expert.
right there!
All right, go on. It ain't like you got balls anyways. Oh, hell's half acre. Oh, hearing him. Oh, my balls. Like, that'd be enough.
As previously pointed out, Bill can initially have terrible first impressions. He not only abuses alcohol and can be intoxicated, but he is used to rejection and ridicule, and can be very aggressive in his defensiveness. to prove that he is no pushover and can't be bullied or disrespected. However, despite his initial poor first impressions, Bill is resilient and will later demonstrate his positive qualities and better angels of his nature.
You want to have a drink? Oh, no, thank you, sir.
Have a goddamn drink!
Okay.
You okay, Tilly?
What do you want, Morgan?
Nothing.
Well, then let fellers have a drink in peace. Hey, no, where are you going? Oh, no, don't take off. Oh, shit.
Despite Bill's initial awkward and terrible first impressions with Kieran, Bill does form a normal and healthy friendship with Kieran, treating him just like he treats the more established members of the gang.
I'm all right. Thanks for asking.
Glad to hear. Can't complain.
Good on you.
Bill also leaves a poor first impression with Charles, and initially Charles doesn't have a very high opinion of him.
Not everyone would agree.
Like who?
Bill, for one.
Bill don't
You wanna
like
sit,
nobody
Arthur?
who's tougher or smarter than him.
Ain't that right, Arthur?
Quite right. Which means you don't like many people at all.
Except for maybe that Kieran.
See? You learn quick.
Charles, however, will soon be in for a surprise, and in fact, to his utter shock, just how much respect Bill shows him.
Mr. Smith?
Mrs. Gaston.
Bill.
Even though this just seems like a standard greeting or brief interaction between two gang members, you can't help but notice Charles' reaction. He is in total disbelief at just how friendly and respectful Bill is towards him. This is the real Bill, when he's not rejected nor ridiculed. Bill will again get off to a particularly awful start with yet another gang member, but this time, Bill eventually forms a very enduring and close friendship with this same gang member.
Get over here.
His name is Lenny, and he is one of us. So don't be calling him boy now, Bill. He don't like that no more.
Sorry, Dutch. You know, I don't like your attitude.
Well, okay then.
Ah! Damn right it's okay. Stay out of this, Morgan. The boy needs to learn some respect.
Whatever you say.
Hell, shit.
You okay, Lenny?
I'm fine.
Just ignore that son of a bitch. What the hell was that?
The kid's got no respect.
It's you's lacking respect, far as I can see.
Now, this is where not only members of the gang, but also many within the Red Dead Redemption community would completely write off and dismiss Bill. However, this is what many seem to miss or overlook: Bill's resilient nature.
How about we grab ourselves a drink, son?
Sure. But I ain't sitting on your knee.
This boy is a killer. All of you. A killer.
People are getting hungry,
That
Pearson.
was good business. Good business. We robbed the stage, Arthur. The boy's idea.
Good work, gentlemen. Good work.
Through their future interactions, it's quite apparent that Bill and Lenny form one of the most endearing friendships in the gang, regularly showing their fondness and enthusiasm for one another.
You all right?
Doing well.
good. Hey, kid.
Bill!
Hey, kid.
Bill?
Another close friend of Bill is Uncle, who he also regularly hangs out with in camp, as well as around the campfire. Here they warmly reminisce about Matt Callender, who was killed in the aftermath of the disastrous Blackwater robbery. Like Lenny, Uncle is another good friend who is both fond and respectful of Bill.
You know, I once saw Mac beat up 15 sailors.
That ain't nothing. Everybody knows them Navy boys can't fight. That's why they float.
Oh, that's so.
Sure. That ain't nothing. I once beat up 20.
Okay.
But, I'm gonna miss Mac. He was a good man. Kind of fellow you like to rob alongside.
Yeah.
You know? Heartless son of a bitch. But he had a heart. That makes any sense.
I know what you mean. R.I.P., Mac.
In fact, Bill maintains a very normal and friendly presence in camp throughout much of the game's story. Just like Arthur, John, and Javier, Bill maintains very normal, healthy, and respectful friendships with the gang's female members. Like the fellow main enforcers of the Vanderlyn gang, Bill is a gentleman.
Hello, ladies.
Hey there.
How you holding up?
Not too bad.
Glad to hear. How's it going?
Good, thanks.
All right.
All right.
Hey. Pretty good.
Good.
Hey, Sadie.
Huh? Bill?
Bill. Hello. How's it going?
Can't complain.
Glad to hear.
Hey, Bill. Why don't you sit, Arthur?
Hey.
Some other unique aspects of Bill in camp is that he spends a lot of time hanging out with Hosea, Abigail, and Jack around the campfire, while in Chapter 3 Bill forms an endearing bond with Kane, the stray dog which wanders into the Vanderlyn gang's camp and finds a home. The interactions not only between Bill and Kane, but also between Bill and Jack, clearly demonstrate that Bill, when not abusing alcohol and is showcasing his positive features, is indeed a good person.
Uncle Bill, how are things?
Can't complain.
I bet you're happy.
Make sure my horse gets some.
Another overlooked and unique aspect of Bill and his personality is his excellently timed sense of humor.
Ugh. You know when you need to piss but you can't face moving?
You have all the charm of a dead slug, Bill Williamson.
I'll tough it out. If you're wondering what that unholy smell is, Reverend, I am responsible.
I thought it was some animal, and I was right.
Are you gonna deign to join us, oh great one? What are you reading?
Nothing you'd like.
Well, pardon me for breathing. Look at this. Farm Boy Morgan.
I mean, why the hell do we need a gaggle of girls who won't even fuck you if you put a gun to their head?
I'm sure you've tried.
Once the player has reached Chapter 2, you will be able to uncover and learn more about Bill's background, and specifically about why he left the US Army. Bill was dishonorably discharged for deviancy and attempted murder on December 27, 1892. It seems that Bill attempted to seek intimacy with a comrade in arms, and the two men were either discovered or Bill was rejected. Regardless, this has led to the conclusion within the Red Dead community that Bill is gay. However, what many within the community have either missed or overlooked is that Bill isn't gay, but Bill is in fact bisexual, as he has a crush on Karen.
You alright?
I've been better.
Listen, you think Karen is sweet on me?
What? No, not in the slightest.
I don't know. Way she looks at me sometimes.
And Bill's feelings for Karen just might be reciprocated, as the chemistry between them is quite apparent.
Fine. How are you, Mr. Bill?
Good. I
Change
heard
your
you said
mind?
something to Grimshaw about a bank.
Yes, the one in Valentine?
Well, give me the information.
No! I'm running this. You want in?
Well, you?
Me. I can rob a bank just as well as any of you.
Sure, maybe. Now let me have a think.
I've been working on this a long time. I'm not getting cut out.
If you pay attention and watch closely, especially in camp, you will learn a lot about Bill which isn't necessarily fleshed out in main story missions. What of course is emphasized, however, are Bill's demons, specifically the trauma of watching his father lose his mind and drink himself to death. His insecurity over his birth name, Marion, and sexuality, and the perception of his masculinity, toughness, and intelligence. His traumatic experiences while serving in the US Army, and specifically his post-traumatic stress disorder. His alcohol abuse in order to alleviate and temporarily escape his trauma and demons. And of course, Dutch's bullying of Bill while providing preferential treatment and favoritism to others.
You know, back when I was in the Army, and we was out on patrol, we couldn't light no fires. See, our captain had a theory. He said a lit fire would just bring the engines on us that much quicker. But the only problem was, no fire brought the wolves on us. Yes, sir. So there we were at night, either cold and frightened of the wolves or warm and frightened of the Indians. And I could never figure out what frightened me more. All right. I know what you boys are thinking, but I don't frighten that easy. You know what? Why don't you try yourselves a couple night out on that prairie, surrounded by savages trying to eat you alive, and we'll see who the real man is. That's all I'm saying. You can't blame a man for his honesty. Damn Indians. The horse. You know, when I first met Dutch, when I first met many of you, I had just left the Army. And it wasn't on a case of no dishonorable discharge like I'm sure some of you have heard around here. But it was by mutual consent on the account of our differing opinions, or that's how the captain put it. Differing opinions. The Army, they had their opinion, and I had mine. We was equals, but we went our separate ways. Now me, I spent a few nights sleeping rough, I admit. Funny. I was robbed. I was robbed by someone I was well, you know well. No, it was a woman. I was robbed by a woman. And then I met Dutch. Now, unlike some of you vagrants and vagabonds and orphans and murderers. I've seen what Uncle Sam can do up close. Nothing will make you believe in a man like Dutch more than seeing what power can do to a captain in the U.S. Army. I mean, it corrupts a man. It corrupts a man totally. But I believe in Dutch. I know. Dutch is Dutch. But I believe in him where he talks, I walks. And that's the way it's gonna be. And it was a woman. I see you chuckling. You know, when I first met Dutch.
Hello.
I was at a low point. Real low. And, I tried to rob him. I mean, I was just out of the army, and I was drinking like a fish, and I was still sticking up folk on the highway, just out west of the mountains. And Dutch got one look at me. I was just drunk, and I was angry. Hello. and he just burst out laughing. And I was so mad, I swear I could have put a slug in him. But he cheered me up, and he gave me purpose. And now I sense some of you fools are doubting him. And that makes me so angry, because he saved me. He saved Bill Williamson. And he can do it again. So for all you sons of bitches, you fools that are doubting him, go. Leave, just run away, just get the hell out of here. But you know what? I know you won't. None of you will. 'Cause you're all the same. You're just like me. So you have faith. We've all got to have faith. 'Cause this is Dutch Vanderland that we're talking about here. This is Dutch Vanderland.
You tell him, Bill.
Somebody's got him.
For sure.
Despite Bill's alcohol abuse and subsequent terrible behavior at times,
So what's wrong with you, you old fool?
Don't sleep it off, you drunken buffoon. I've excused you quite enough. Don't sleep it off, you drunk. Is that clear?
Okay.
Okay. I've not got enough time for fools, Arthur.
Yeah.
the trauma he experienced, and especially his insecurity of being ridiculed and rejected, Bill as a member of the Vanderlyn gang demonstrates through his camp interactions that he is a good person who cares for those in the gang and has a heart. He guards the camp and contributes to the camp funds, maintains good relations, and provides good company. Finally, in Chapter 2, there is also a random encounter with Javier Escuela that you can complete. When outside of camp and exploring the map in free roam, you will have the opportunity to meet up with Javier and rescue Bill, who has been captured by bounty hunters.
Arthur! I found you. Arthur, they got Bill.
What? Who has him?
Bountymen. I found their camp nearby. They got Bill tied up. I'm gonna go take care of it. Come on.
Oh, sloppy Bill.
Yeah, well. You coming?
All right, lead the way. So how'd you find him?
He said he was going hunting. Never returned. I was able to track him pretty easily. Only a matter of time before they decide to pick up camp. Head for town to collect the bounty.
Guess we're in sights again.
When are we not, Arthur?
Fair point.
What'll Dutch do?
Ain't for me to say. Doubt Bill'll like it, whatever it is.
He's a problem. We all know it. There they are. On foot from here. Stake out your position.
Hey, you idiots ever hear of Dutch's boys? You're gonna pay for this. You have no idea what hell it... Their friends showed up. Oh! This kill them sons of bitches! You're done for! Bring tears to my eyes! Just in time. I owe you fellers for this. Well, I'm gonna head back to camp, find a bottle, and nurse these bruises.
Yeah. I'm headed to camp as well. Thanks, Arthur.
In the Chapter 3 mission, American Distillation, Arthur travels to the Scarlet Meadows Sheriff's Office in Rhodes in order to meet up with Bill and Dutch. Dutch informs Arthur that Sheriff Lee Gray has temporarily deputized the three men in order to assist the sheriff with destroying an illegal moonshine operation. The men set out to destroy the illegal moonshine operation. Arthur accompanies Deputy Archibald McGregor on a wagon, while Bill and Dutch ride behind. While the men travel to the suspected location of the illegal moonshine operation, they discover the aftermath of an ambush on the trail and the body of Lemoyne State Representative Frederick Mitchell. Mitchell and the stagecoach he was traveling on was ambushed by the Lemoyne Raiders. However, before this discovery and while traveling to the location of the illegal moonshine operation, Dutch will briefly attempt to mock Bill. However, Bill quickly dismisses Dutch.
That badge rather suits you, Mr. W.
Yes, I thought so too.
Does it feel good to be back at it? Serving your country?
I wouldn't go that far.
Arthur, Bill, Dutch, and Deputy McGregor eventually dismount at Merkin's Waller, the location of the illegal moonshine operation. In order to quickly and quietly knock out those who are guarding the moonshine still, the men split up. Arthur and Bill go to the left of the still in order to take out the guards, loading the wagon, while Dutch and McGregor take out those on the right, who are in fact behind the still and on a trail behind the cover of the swamp's vegetation. The men knock out all of the guards around the still. With one guard remaining at the still itself, Arthur sneaks behind the final guard and knocks him out. The men then carry the unconscious bootleggers back to the wagon full of moonshine bottles, and then Arthur destroys the moonshine still. This obviously alerts those nearby, the Lemoyne Raiders, who are at Maccomb's End, a small abandoned settlement at Merkin's Waller. Arthur is backed up by Bill, and the two experienced enforcers take out all of the Lemoyne Raiders, watching each other's backs in the process. Arthur and Bill then make their way back to the wagon, where Dutch and Deputy McGregor are watching over the knocked out bootleggers. Deputy McGregor, after being talked out of destroying the moonshine by Dutch, then gives the confiscated moonshine to the men, as he elaborates that it's a tradition for seized moonshine to be enjoyed by the law. Dutch happily welcomes Deputy McGregor's suggestion, and Bill takes the wagon back to camp, while Deputy McGregor leads the bootleggers to the Rhodes jail. In the mission An Honest Mistake, Arthur approaches Molly O'Shea, who attempts to share something with him regarding Dutch. Before Molly can talk to Arthur, however, Uncle completely interrupts, which Molly finds off-putting and walks away. Uncle is excited and explains to Arthur that he has learned about a very briefly unguarded supply wagon carrying payroll that is passing by near the gang's camp at Clemens Point. Uncle asks Bill and Charles to come along, and they agree. The four men ride out from Clemens Point and wait near the crossroads by the ruins of a small church. The wagon is eventually spotted, and the men ride forward and force the wagon to stop and begin the robbery. After the wagon is stopped, however, one of the men reveals that they are employed by Cornwall, Kerosene and Tar, and specifically by Leviticus Cornwall. Arthur is immediately regretful, and soon enough, several Cornwall guards appear close by on horseback and charge forward. The men, being outnumbered, take off from the immediate area as Arthur fights off the guards. They eventually create enough distance between themselves and the guards and hide in a barn at Compson's Stead, an abandoned homestead. Later that night, Cornwall guards suddenly arrive at the abandoned homestead and make their way behind the home. They question a squatter inside the home who tells the guards that they heard a noise earlier in the barn. The men hide and prepare themselves as the guards approach the barn. One of the guards enters the barn, and just before he discovers the men hiding inside, Arthur shoots and immediately kills him, and a massive shootout ensues as waves of Cornwall guards approach from nearly every direction. At some point during the shootout, a lantern is broken and the barn eventually catches fire. As the flames quickly spread, the men have no choice but to flee. As the men retreat into the forest, Bill observes that they can lose the guards in the woods, and then Uncle points out that the men should split up in order to confuse the guards. Arthur and Uncle hide behind a large rock, while Bill and Charles flee in another direction. Two guards eventually approach and pass the two men hiding behind the rock. Arthur and Uncle sneak behind the guards in order to quickly and quietly take them out. Arthur takes out the one guard, but Uncle is overwhelmed until Arthur shoots the guard and saves Uncle. The men then run to Bill and Charles and help take out the remaining Cornwall guards. Arthur then orders the men to split up and quickly flee the scene. Bill, however, really shines and clearly demonstrates his merit as a competent member of the gang, along with Karen Jones and Lenny Summers in the mission Sodom, Back to Gomorrah. Bill, Lenny, and Karen have devised a plan to rob the savings bank in Valentine.
We got something cooking you might be interested in.
Am I gonna like the sound of this?
Been cooking since Horseshoe, but you went and kicked up all that commotion in Valentine. Now, we was preparing to rob the bank there until you got involved in all that nonsense, and I don't know, I just feel like it's unfinished business.
That wasn't my fault. It was just one of them things.
How come every time I get in trouble, I'm called a fool and an idiot? But when you get in trouble, oh, it's just one of them things.
It's a good point, Arthur.
A very good point.
Bill explains to Arthur that he, along with Karen and Lenny, had originally planned this robbery when the gang were still camped at Horseshoe Overlook. However, they were unable to complete the robbery due to Leviticus Cornwall ambushing Arthur, Dutch, John, and Strauss in Valentine, which culminated in a massive shootout throughout the town. Arthur tries to explain to Bill that the Cornwall ambush wasn't his fault, that it was just one of them things, and Bill capitalizes on this and makes a great point. Bill asks Arthur, how come every time I get in trouble, I'm called a fool and an idiot, but when you get in trouble, oh, it's just one of them things. Both Lenny and Karen back up Bill, admitting it's a very good point. However, everyone here is correct. Bill is not a fool, and he is unfairly treated within the gang. Yet Arthur is also right, as the Cornwall ambush in Valentine was clearly Dutch's fault for his reckless idea to rob Cornwall's private train while the gang were hiding out in Coulter. Furthermore, it is also Dutch's fault for the manner in which Bill is treated within the gang, as Dutch mocks and bullies Bill, in addition, of course, to concocting reckless plan after reckless plan.
All right, well, what do y'all want me to do?
Hit the goddamn bank with us.
You really think it's worth going back there?
4 of us can hit the bank easy, but I ain't gonna lie to you. There will be law if we linger.
And if serious?
No, just local boys being rounded up and pressed into action.
Meaning?
If we go in quick and quiet, we can hit it just fine. If there's 4 of us, I mean.
Y'all think it's worth the risk?
It's a bank, Arthur.
So? Is the take good?
According to the fella I met, yes. It's the end of the stock sales. Plenty of money and plenty of people milling about.
Okay, I suppose. It's worth taking a look at least.
If I'm gonna be performing, I better go get changed out of these rags. Give me a minute, gentlemen.
Okay. So, Bill, this better be good.
It is good. We put a lot of research into this one.
I hope so.
Arthur is initially skeptical of returning to Valentine to rob the bank, and asks Karen if the take will be good. Karen answers by elaborating that the end of cattle stock sales have increased the bank's holdings. Arthur agrees to the robbery and says it's worth taking a look. While Karen goes to change clothing, Bill points out to Arthur that the 3 of them conducted considerable research in planning this robbery. Bill is absolutely correct. This is one of the best plans of robberies that was ever planned and carried out by the gang in the entire game. While Dutch's plans are reckless with tremendous risk and eventual consequences, the plan to rob the Valentine Savings Bank is solid. Instead of completing a robbery either close to camp or within the same state, often followed by a shootout with the law, this time the 4 of them are traveling to New Hanover and specifically Valentine, from out of state, from Lemoyne, and are now nowhere near the location of the planned robbery. Furthermore, Bill, Karen, and Lenny also deduced to use O'Driscoll gang-inspired disguises, wearing long dark leather trench coats in order to lead law enforcement in another direction. Also, you can't help but notice the camaraderie between and excitement shared by Lenny and Bill as they prepare to leave. As the 4 ride off, they discuss the plan. Karen will enter the bank and distract those inside with a prepared routine. Then Arthur, Lenny, and Bill will follow soon after and rob the bank. Karen also points out that she noticed only a few guards when she recently scouted the bank. Again, the 3 of them really put a lot of time and effort into the preparations for this robbery. Bill asks Arthur if he can handle the vaults and agrees, and Bill, Karen, and Lenny will watch the bank's staff and customers while keeping an eye out for the law. Bill then points out to Arthur that he's networked with some of the Greys and that they've offered additional work for some of the gang. As Arthur points out that he's not particularly thrilled about returning to Valentine, following the Cornwall ambush and ensuing shootout, Bill points out that he actually kept his cool in Valentine and that again, Arthur is always cut slack whenever he messes up, but when Bill messes up, he is the prize idiot. Arthur responds by saying he doesn't know what to tell him. Bill continues by citing the dynamite that failed to explode when the gang robbed Leviticus Cornwell's private train, and that if he makes one mistake, he will never live it down. Arthur then poses a rather snide series of questions. What do you need? A pat on the back? A medal? And this is where Bill is getting to the root of the problem. It's Dutch and the culture he's created and cultivated within the gang. A culture of absolute loyalty to him, while Dutch cannot be questioned nor second-guessed. He lives above all others and manipulates them to do his bidding, all the while mocking and bullying Bill. Dutch certainly favors certain members or enforcers in the gang, such as Arthur and John, while others are not as held in the same regard by Dutch, such as Bill and even Javier.
It feels like we're running, killing, and running some more.
Listen, these are tough times, of course, but now, this is when we have to be our strongest. We're gonna make it. We are gonna be okay, but please, Javier, I need you strong.
Okay.
Not okay, okay. Yes or no. Strong or weak. Which is it?
Strong. Strong.
You better not be doubting me as well, Arthur.
You don't gotta worry about Javier's loyalty?
I ain't so sure about any of you these days.
Aw, come on, Dutch.
What Bill is seeking is to be treated equally, to be respected, and for there to not be favored members who receive preferential treatment. Bill, along with Karen and Lenny, have devised an excellent plan in robbery, and Bill is already showing signs of suspecting that he will not receive credit nor recognition of his efforts and accomplishments for the gang. Finally, Arthur still has some reluctance about returning to Valentine, especially after robbing Cornwall's private train, getting ambushed by Cornwall and Valentine, and getting cornered by Cornwall's guards at Compson's stead. Yet Bill points out that's the genius of it. Folks never look at what's right under their nose. And Bill is 100% correct. As the four arrive in Valentine, not only are Cornwall's guards long gone, but there are no Pinkerton agents, bounty hunters, and even lawmen. Bill's logic, just like the plan, is sound and solid. As they approach the bank, they stop and Karen asks Arthur what routine should she use to distract those inside, and Arthur chooses the little girl lost routine.
So even you long to save the fallen women, eh, Arthur? You break my heart. You really do.
If you're ready, get going.
Good luck, gentlemen.
We got this.
Karen enters the bank and starts distracting those inside, while the men outside prepare themselves. Once Karen stops the act, she pulls her gun and tells those inside to put their hands up, while Arthur, Lenny, and Bill enter and take up their positions. Lenny throws Karen the keys to the vault room. Karen unlocks the door and Arthur pushes a bank teller inside, forcing him to open the vault. Once inside the vault, the bank teller informs Bill and Arthur he is unable to open the lockboxes and only the manager can. Arthur then improvises and cracks the lockboxes. Now, I took way too long cracking these lockboxes. If you take too long trying to crack them, lawmen will eventually show up and be waiting for you outside. However, if you don't take too long cracking the lockboxes, Arthur, Karen, Bill, and Lenny can make a clean getaway, and you are only pursued by a relatively small scattering of lawmen on horseback upon fleeing Valentine after the robbery. This again demonstrates just how much of a sound and solid plan that Bill, Karen, and Lenny devised. So, if you take too long cracking the lockboxes, lawmen will be waiting outside. After taking them out, the four flee Valentine. Just outside the settlement's limits, more lawmen appear on horseback. After passing a close train, they finally lose the lawmen and are able to gather themselves after an intense pursuit. While Arthur is somewhat reluctant, he does admit that the robbery resulted in a good take for the gang. Nonetheless, this robbery brought in a total of $20,000 for the gang, and it is arguably the best robbery pulled off by the gang in the entire game. In fact, when adjusted for inflation, $10,000 in 1899 would be approximately the equivalent of $390,000 to over $400,000 in 2026. This is arguably more than enough money required for the gang to flee out west and south and ultimately flee the United States. This was an excellent score for the gang. It was an excellent plan as Karen, Bill, and Lenny took their time conducting research and reconnaissance, carefully strategizing when and how they would strike. Furthermore, the fact that Bill never could let this potential robbery go, even after the gang relocated to an entirely different state, and therefore could place a considerable amount of distance between the location of the robbery and where the gang is now camping out, was astute. The robbery was much more effective and successful due to Bill's persistence. Regardless, when Arthur does inform Dutch of who devised the plan itself, Dutch says absolutely nothing and cannot bring himself to praise Bill, Lenny, or Karen.
You heard about the bank in Valentine?
Yeah, sounds like it went very well. Good work, Arthur.
Oh, Bill, Karen, and Lenny put it together.
The robbery is never raised again, nor how much money was brought in for the gang. Again, there was arguably more than enough money for the gang to finally leave, but Dutch was having none of it. A stagecoach robbery mission, planned and organized by Bill, will also become available in Chapter 3 that Arthur can complete. Initially, Tilly is a part of the robbery as well, but she and Bill simply can't cooperate and stop antagonizing one another. Incidentally, during this robbery, Bill also shares with Arthur that he robbed a house in Roanoke Ridge and drunk soldiers in Lemoyne Swamps. In the mission, A Short Walk in a Pretty Town, Arthur travels through Rhodes in order to meet up with Bill, Micah, and Sean. The men are supposed to meet up with some of the Greys at the Rhodes Parlor House regarding a job, that they need security. As the men pass by the Scarlet Meadows Sheriff's Office, Arthur asks the others if anything seems off. As Sean McGuire starts answering Arthur, he is shot in the head and immediately killed. The Greys have staged an ambush and the men immediately seek cover, before Micah quickly kills the sniper who shot Sean. Arthur and Micah eventually take cover in the gunsmith. After taking out all of the Greys, the men make their way over to the sheriff's office. Sheriff Gray, Deputy McGregor, and the remaining Greys emerge from the sheriff's office, but also with Bill, who is captured during the ambush and is being held at gunpoint by Sheriff Gray. Arthur then proceeds to take out Sheriff Gray, Deputy McGregor, and the other two Greys, saving Bill's life. With the coast clear and the Greys' ambush defeated, Arthur proceeds to lambaste Bill for walking the men into a setup. Micah responds to this and momentarily defends Bill, but then goes on to get personal with Arthur, and the two men proceed to temporarily argue and point out one another's flaws. It's ironic, however, that Arthur mentions the fact that he and Sean burned down the Greys' tobacco fields, and that Micah initially defends Bill, observing that Bill was just trying to get a lead. This is true, but the fault really lies with Dutch and Hosea. Their plan, to play the Braithwaites and Greys off one another, was reckless and poorly devised. The ambush was therefore a consequence of this plan. While they argue, Bill utilizes his military training and keeps watch around them, scouting the immediate area to ensure they're safe and no other threats are present. Nonetheless, the men go their separate ways after Arthur has Bill find a location to bury Sean. Bill, of course, also assists the gang when they storm Braithwaite Manor in the mission Blessed Are the Peacemakers, in their frantic search for the missing Jack Marston. In the Chapter 4 mission, The Gilded Cage, Bill attends the party being hosted at Saint Denis Mayor Lemieux's mansion, along with Arthur, Hosea, and Dutch. The men were invited to the party by Angelo Bronte when they met him previously in the mission Angelo Bronte, a Man of Honor. Bill has a very minor role in this mission and will complain in the concluding cutscene that he didn't enjoy himself and was rather uncomfortable, saying that it was torture.
I ain't never felt so awkward in all my life. All them folk all so pleased with themselves. Oh, high society's pigeon shit. If you ask me, it's more like torture.
This of course stems from Bill's traumatic experiences throughout his life, or being dealt a bad hand, as Arthur articulated it.
Hey, what's wrong, Bill? You look kind of confused, like somebody just asked you where the sun goes at night.
Huh? What do you mean?
Nothing.
Yeah, better be nothing.
I love it when you talk to me so tough and manly. And you make me feel like a little Mexican peasant who's got to be scared of the big American soldier.
Now, you want to start something, buddy?
Why are you always so angry, Bill?
You shut up. Shut up.
Arthur, why is he always so angry? You got any clue?
He's every right to be angry. He's been dealt a bad hand. I'd be angry, too. You carry on, Bill.
Thanks, Arthur.
All right, I give up.
Bill has been alone through much of his life, seeking companionship and acceptance. He is self-conscious, insecure, and full of anxiety due to his tremendous fear of ridicule and rejection, which he has often encountered throughout his life. This helps to explain why it is initially so difficult for Bill to make new friends and open up to others, that he is stubborn and hot-headed due to being put on the spot, ridiculed, and rejected. Bill is also included in a stagecoach robbery mission that Arthur carries out with Micah. This is another straightforward stagecoach robbery mission in which the guards are taken out and the men split the money. On the way to the location where the men ambush the stagecoach, however, Micah makes rather derogatory comments about the gang's female members, but Bill has a clever comeback.
I mean, why the hell do we need a gaggle of girls who won't even fuck you if you put a gun to their head? I'm sure you've tried.
Bill also participates in Dutch's plan to get revenge on Angelo Bronte for the trolley station robbery setup in the mission Revenge is a Dish Best Eaten. Arthur meets up with Dutch, John, Bill, and Lenny in Le Gras, and they set out on a skiff with Thomas ferrying the men behind Bronte's mansion so they can sneak onto the property undetected. On the way, however, Dutch begins mocking and bullying Bill before lambasting him for referring to Native Americans he fought on the front lines as savages. Dutch obviously has a superiority complex and will pick on Bill to fulfill and satisfy his ego.
Hey, Bill, you were a sharpshooter in the cavalry, weren't you?
What?
When we get there, maybe you could help with the suppression fire.
I never said I was no sharpshooter.
Oh, that's right. What was it? The nation's most loyal latrine digger, wasn't that it?
Yeah, well, I fought, and I fought well.
So you always tell us.
You taught me something you could do with learning. Them Indians were savages.
Watch your mouth there, boy. Watch it. Only type of savage in these parts are moonshine, swilling, pompous, inbred locals.
Dutch, I saw things out there.
I don't doubt you saw things, Bill, but your tiny little mind was too small to comprehend what you saw. What you saw was people who lost everything to savagery. Savagery of peasants. Failures come from Europe to reap some awful vengeance on God's last creation.
This, of course, contributes to the difficult circumstances that Bill has to contend with, creating a toxic environment for him to endure. The men arrive behind Bronte's mansion at a dock and proceed to sneak onto the property. They catch Bronte's guards completely off guard, and an intense close-quarters shootout commences. They storm the mansion and clear the first floor. Arthur and John finally locate Bronte hiding upstairs, and John knocks him out. The men then fight their way back to the boat, now taking out lawmen as well. The men board the boat and flee the city and make their way back to Le Gras. On the way, however, Dutch wakes up Bronte and suggests that they ransom him. However, Bronte begins mocking Dutch and the gang, but Dutch points out to Bronte that all of his men and money is gone, and therefore his power. Bronte is defeated. Bronte then offers $1,000 to Bill, Lenny, John, or Arthur to kill Dutch and set him free. Not one of the men respond to Bronte's offer, and they remain stoic. This is clearly a victory for Dutch. Bronte is clearly defeated and has nothing, despite proclaiming that Dutch and the gang are nothing, and his defiance is futile. However, Dutch just snaps. Bronte's offer to the men to kill Dutch and set him free seemed to have triggered Dutch, as he proceeds to lose all control and brutally murders Bronte by drowning him. In the final Chapter 4 mission, Banking, the Old American Art, Bill also plays a prominent role during the gang's robbery of the Lemoyne National Bank in Saint Denis. Bill not only acquires the combinations for the bank's safes, but also assists in the extensive shootout with agents of the Pinkerton Detective Agency. First, Hosea is executed in cold blood by lead agent Andrew Milton. Then later, Lenny Summers is shot and killed as the gang attempts to flee from the scene of the crime on the city's rooftops. Not only was Lenny's death rushed and lazy, not even receiving a cutscene for that matter, but also, the writers made a massive mistake here when Bill runs by Lenny, but Charles and Javier stop and react with shock. Bill and Lenny were very good friends who had one of the most sincere and endearing friendships within the gang. Their fondness and enthusiasm for one another was undeniable, except I suppose for Rockstar's writers, who really made a very disappointing mistake here. Bill, Arthur, Javier, Dutch, and Micah would eventually escape from the city by stowing themselves on a large fishing freighter called the Antenor, which is destined for the Caribbean. After the intense shootout in Saint Denis, Chapter 5 begins as the men gather themselves and settle down for a few days aboard the Antenor, preparing to land in Cuba and hide out for a few weeks. However, a violent storm hits the area, and after all seems lost, the men abandon ship. But Arthur is separated and must literally jump overboard. Arthur eventually washes up on the shores of Guarma and is in rough shape after a particularly harrowing ordeal. Weak, shaken, and disorientated, Arthur wanders the shoreline for some time before stumbling upon Bill, Javier, Dutch, and Micah, who are gathered around a small campfire near the shoreline. While the men are stranded on Guarma, Bill is not generally featured in the story missions which occur on the tropical island. Bill is only included in a few cutscenes, as well as encouraging Arthur during an intense and epic shootout, and is only really featured in story missions upon the men's escape from Guarma and return to the United States. Bill at one point, however, is tasked with looking after a wounded and recovering Javier, while the men rescue the captain of the boat that will take them back to the US. The men must essentially fight off and escape from the clutches of a depraved and sadistic Spanish colonel, Alberto Fusar, and his occupying Spanish forces, which administer the island's sugarcane plantation with a brutally oppressive and authoritarian iron fist. Nonetheless, the men eventually escape Guarma and return to the United States. After the men finally arrive back in the United States, we next see Bill in the mission Fleeting Joy. After discovering a letter from Sadie Adler for Arthur at Shady Belle, which informed him that the gang had relocated to the small abandoned fishing settlement called Le Quai, located northwest of Saint Denis and Bayou Noir. Arthur travels there and reunites with most of the gang. Arthur is then informed by Sadie that John, who was apprehended by Pinkerton agents during the Lemoyne National Bank robbery, is being held in the Sisika Penitentiary. Finally, after some time, Bill also arrives at Le Quai but was frustrated because he was unable to locate them and had to ask around. Bill is also very annoyed and frustrated that the gang would be so foolish as to pitch a new camp not only in Lemoyne, where they're wanted by the law, but also to establish a new camp so close to Saint Denis, northwest of the city at Le Quai, an abandoned fishing village. Soon afterwards, the Pinkertons ambush the gang as they surround the settlement and open fire. With the gang pinned down inside, Arthur and Sadie flank the Pinkertons and begin to fight them off. Arthur and Sadie are then joined by Bill, who continue to fight off the Pinkertons. Arthur eventually mans a Maxim gun and takes out more of the Pinkerton agents. With the overwhelming firepower of not only the Maxim gun, but also with Bill and Sadie, the Pinkertons retreat and are soundly defeated. Dutch and Micah emerge from one of the cabins, and Dutch immediately thanks Arthur for saving them. Arthur, however, immediately points out that he had help from Bill and Sadie, which of course Dutch doesn't acknowledge. Dutch begins making plans for the gang to pack up and to find a location to pitch a new camp. Dutch suggests up north, as they can no longer continue to travel east. Abigail inquires about John, but Dutch is very reluctant and tells her that now is not the time, but it will be soon. While Dutch walks off with Micah, Abigail then asks Arthur and Sadie if they'll help, as she suspects that Dutch is not interested in rescuing John. Arthur and Sadie both agree to help. Soon afterwards, in the mission That's Murphy Country, Dutch asks Arthur and Charles to travel north into New Hanover, and specifically into Roanoke Ridge, to clean out Beaver Hollow for the gang's new camp. Beaver Hollow, of course, is the main hideout of the Murphy Brood, the very large inbred family which operates as a brutal criminal gang throughout the region. They rob, kidnap, torture, murder, and plunder throughout much of Roanoke Ridge, specifically around their Beaver Hollow hideout and the small, remote, and isolated village Butcher's Creek. Regardless, Arthur and Charles quickly and quietly take out those outside of the cave. Then they storm inside and take out the rest. They find a young woman locked up in a cage who is kidnapped and abused by the inbred degenerates. Arthur takes the girl back to her home in Annisburg and reunites her with her mother, while Charles returns to Lakay and gathers the others. As the gang are setting up the new camp, Uncle returns with a drunk Molly O'Shea. Molly, while drunk, is openly defiant of Dutch and the gang. She confronts Dutch due to his horrible treatment of her. He used her and then shoved her aside. Regardless, Molly is intent at getting back at Dutch, at hurting him, and then declares that she has informed the Pinkertons about the Lemoyne National Bank robbery. Dutch pulls out one of his revolvers, but Arthur, who is wiser to the situation and can clearly see that Molly is both emotionally and psychologically damaged, insists and pleads with Dutch that she's crazy and to let her go. But suddenly, Molly is shot and killed by Miss Grimshaw. With the Pinkerton ambush at Lakay and now the summary, cold-blooded execution of Molly O'Shea, most of the gang are now beyond rattled and paranoid. They are living in fear on a knife's edge as Dutch's mental decline continues unabated. All the while, the gang begins to fracture into factions. From the outset of Chapter 6, it is quite obvious that Dutch's mental health has significantly worsened. He is abrasive, paranoid, and outright unhinged. The state of the gang is especially being made worse by Micah, who is constantly whispering in Dutch's ear and manipulating him.
We need money! You dumb fool! Money! Or we are dead! You all right? We are all dead! I am doing the best I can. Fool!
Don't you worry about him.
Well, that's the problem. I am worried about him.
We all are.
Bill, meanwhile, initially appears very loyal to Dutch. He not only at first suspects John of being a snitch, but also confronts Charles regarding their loyalties.
You think so?
Well, it's the only thing that makes sense.
That don't make much sense either.
Oh.
Hey, Arthur.
Marston ain't a rat. How many years you known him?
Why did they take so long to hang him?
What has happened to you?
You're a wrong man. A wrong man. There's something not right with you.
Are you talking to me, old man? Mind your manners.
I've minded them long enough. So who do you think the rat is?
Rat?
Well, someone's talking to somebody. They has to be.
I reckon they just caught our scent and we can't shake them off, that's all.
I think it's Marston.
Nonsense.
Mark my words.
Just seems like we're making a whole lot of trouble for no real reason.
Making trouble for those who deserve it always seemed reasonable.
Damn it,
enough for
Pearson!
Dutch. Problem is, I ain't sure he cares who he's fighting no more.
We can't kill everyone.
So, now what are the pair of you scheming about now, huh? You goddamn traitors. You were nothing but a street rat when he found you. He believed in you when no other son of a bitch would. Huh, and him? You ain't been nothing but a bad apple from the start. You ain't even been with us a full year and you think you know better.
I'll listen to your words of wisdom.
As soon as I'm shown some evidence there's a brain inside your head.
Okay. You know, you'll get what's coming to you.
You really don't see any of this, do you?
Get away from me, you traitor.
Open your eyes, Bill.
Although Bill does appear to remain very loyal to Dutch, along with Javier, there are several cracks in Bill's stance and overall demeanor throughout Chapter 6. When you specifically interact with Bill in camp, he is more passive-aggressive yet still treats Arthur like a friend. When you interact with or greet Bill, he initially has his guard up but will quickly relent and express his sadness at the situation.
So you think Dutch has lost his mind, Arthur?
I don't know anymore. I'm not sure I even care.
Well, Micah says you've been saying crazy things about him.
Micah. Keep an eye out for Micah, Bill. He says a whole lot.
What are we doing here? We need to move and keep moving.
Hi, Bill.
You going to sit, Arthur?
How are you doing?
Okay, I guess.
We'll be all right.
All right.
Williamson.
Evening.
You all right? What's wrong?
Like you don't know.
We're all in this together.
Fine. Some shit, all this, huh?
How are you? I think so.
This is a mess, Morgan.
I think so.
What's wrong with you, Arthur?
How you mean?
Causing all this trouble just when we need to be united.
I ain't causing no trouble. I just ain't standing for any more lies.
Ain't loyalty mean nothing to you?
I ain't dying for whatever nonsense Micah and Dutch have concocted. And, well, I don't matter much anymore, but I ain't letting the women here die for that neither. Bill.
Morning, Morgan.
I can see all this is hitting you hard.
Don't you try and sidle up to me.
I ain't. We've been friends a long time.
Yeah.
Arthur!
Hi, Susan.
Well, another evening in paradise.
Good evening. How are you doing?
Sad. And drunk.
Just keep your fingers crossed.
Sure thing, Morgan.
When Dutch recruited Bill into the gang, he provided Bill with so much stability and purpose. Bill had a role, a leader, camaraderie, and friends. But most importantly, Bill found a home and some form of acceptance and even love. However, Bill would eventually realize that Dutch would hound and bully him mercilessly, embarrassing him and making him into an object of ridicule within the gang. This abusive treatment would only further drive Bill into despair and alcoholism. He is very defensive, self-conscious, and lashes out, especially when he believes he's being picked on. While Bill is perceived to be a hot-headed and volatile individual, Bill is actually enduring the trauma and alienation he has experienced since he was a child, when he watched his father lose his mind. His father died, and perhaps Bill witnessed this too, as Bill was eventually enrolled in a reform school in his youth.
You know, it's good to sit down for a minute. You know, Shit! I can't remember what I was gonna say. I can't remember. You know, they say that's the first sign of madness. Just forgetting shit. I had something real interesting I was gonna tell you boys and all, and I can't. It would have been amazing. God, shit, I'm sorry. I am annoyed with myself. You know, my daddy started forgetting things. And it didn't turn too good for him in the end. I just hope that I'm not gonna have that kind of future. May he rest in peace. See, he liked moonshine with his whiskey, and he said it was something about the combination. And by the time he passed, he didn't know his left from his right. It's bad business. I just hope that's not what's happening to me. I don't like mixing drinks. All right? That's the problem, is mixing. You don't.
Regarding Bill's hostility towards John and others in Chapter 6, in Chapter 4, Dutch begins to question John's loyalty to the gang, as Dutch takes issue with John becoming a committed husband and father to both Abigail and Jack, despite Dutch encouraging John to do so in Chapter 2.
There's a fine boy you got.
If he's mine. Of course he's yours. It's the truest of gifts, a child. Yet you push him away.
I ain't no kind of father. I wish the boy no harm, but, well, you know how we live.
We live free.
If you say so.
And John questioning Dutch's decision to execute Angelo Bronte, as well as the viability of robbing the Lemoyne National Bank.
Jesus. Part of your philosophy books cover feeding a fella to a goddamn alligator, Dutch.
Part that covers weakness. That part.
I don't know.
Well, I do. It ain't nice. I know it. But it is us or him. I figure it might as well be him. This is it, gentlemen. The last one.
Where have we heard that before?
What has happened to you, John? You lost all your heart.
I'm just trying to stay real about all this.
Real? Oh, how I detest that word. So devoid of imagination. This isn't some hick town $100 operation. This is a big city bank.
Right. With security, guards, police.
Hosea has done his reconnaissance. We've been over this.
In fact, Dutch allows John to get arrested during the bank robbery and doesn't help him.
Arthur! We lost John. Killed? Arrested. I couldn't help.
Well, we better go. We'll be next.
A lot's changed since you last saw him.
No, it ain't. Last time I saw him was in the bank when he left me to get arrested.
You're meant to be his favorite.
Dutch doesn't prioritize rescuing John and puts it off.
What are you gonna do about John, Dutch?
John?
He's in jail.
We'll get him. Abigail, just not yet.
There's talk of hanging him.
It's not gonna come to that.
Dutch!
Not now, Miss. Not now.
Furthermore, with his mental decline on much greater display, coupled with his paranoia, narcissism, and calling out the so-called doubters, Dutch is blatantly gaslighting the gang regarding John. For years, John has been one of the gang's main enforcers, and for the most part, other than when he left the gang for a year, a loyal member. Therefore, Bill is not only being further manipulated by Dutch with his gaslighting of the gang regarding John, but he is also fearful of losing his family, friends, and home. So Bill can only do what he's used to doing, acting defensively and lashing out. Regardless, even though Bill appears to be loyal to Dutch and casting shade on other gang members, Bill defends Arthur from Micah in the mission The Delights of Van Horn. Following the murder of Leviticus Cornwall by Dutch and the subsequent shootout in Annisburg, Dutch and Micah confiscated private documents of Cornwall's in which they learn of powerful dynamite that will be moved from Annisburg to Saint Denis. Arthur meets up with Bill and Micah outside of an abandoned house just outside Van Horn. Micah tells them to steal the dynamite for Dutch's grand plan. Micah, however, begins to antagonize Arthur about being followed and hinting that Arthur is comfortable with the law. Arthur meanwhile counters that Micah has brought nothing but instability by stirring things up and getting in Dutch's ear, and that Pinkertons always seem to appear wherever Micah goes. Arthur really starts to get into Micah's face before he suffers a coughing fit, which compels Micah to subtly threaten Arthur, to which Bill, still remaining a close friend of Arthur's, immediately defends him.
Cowboy, you're gonna do yourself a mischief where you're heading.
Micah, shut it!
He started it!
Micah then further explains that Dutch wants to create a diversion by blowing something up, and therefore distracting the US Army, so Dutch and Micah can then sneak into Blackwater and collect the stash money from the previous ferry robbery, which occurred before the start of the game, so they can help everyone leave, because Dutch has a boat lined up. None of this, of course, is true. Dutch wasn't going to help everyone leave, nor did he have a boat ready. Dutch's only plan was to continue his crazed war against the US government and civilization. Bill and Arthur eventually leave to ambush the transportation of the dynamite, which is set to pass through Van Horn. Arthur questions Bill about taking orders from Micah, and Bill gets defensive, countering that he's only followed orders from Dutch. Arthur points out how unhinged Dutch and Micah are, and mentions the murder of Leviticus Cornwall, that it's the last thing the gang needs with the Pinkertons hunting them down. However, Bill is indifferent and eventually answers by saying he thinks Arthur has gone soft. Bill is obviously torn between the home, role, and purpose that Dutch provided for him, and his close friendship with Arthur. Bill simply can't bring himself to turn away from Dutch, at least not yet. However, Bill clearly can't bring himself to turn away from Arthur. Arthur, after all, has always been there for him, as a friend who sympathized, defended, and understood Bill. When Arthur and Bill arrive in Van Horn, they start planning how they want to stop and distract the wagon and the accompanying guards. Bill suggests that Arthur plays dead in order to get the shipment to stop, and then Bill will take out the guards himself. However, Arthur points out that he's the better shot and Bill is the better actor. Bill responds very enthusiastically and begins to get ready. Bill's reaction is quite telling. You can just tell how much he loves being with Arthur on jobs or robberies and completing them together. Despite all that's occurring within the gang and being hunted down by the Pinkerton Detective Agency, Bill is thrilled to be carrying out a robbery with Arthur. At least in these moments, especially here in Van Horn, there's no hostility or questioning of loyalty. Arthur then climbs the stairs and positions himself on the second floor of the remains of the Van Horn Sheriff's Office. The wagon and guards transporting the dynamite eventually arrives, and Bill causes a distraction. Bill then suddenly attacks the guards, so Arthur then takes out those around the wagon. Bill and Arthur then confiscate the wagon and dynamite and quickly leave Van Horn. Again, despite everything that's been occurring within the gang, the camaraderie between Bill and Arthur is very evident and seems like old times.
See if we can get this back to camp without blowing ourselves up. Nice shooting back there.
Nice drunk playing.
Comes naturally. I could use a drink after that.
Yeah, I know. Just never goes easy no more, does it?
Arthur and Bill, however, are soon pursued by more guards on horseback. The men are pursued all the way to Butcher Creek, where Arthur takes out the last of the guards and the two of them meet up with John and Micah, just outside the gang's camp at Beaver Hollow. The two men are actually thanked by Micah for completing the robbery, and then tells John to transport the explosives to the bridge in question, Bacchus Bridge. Micah then asks Arthur to join John in transporting the dynamite. Sometime afterwards, Bill reluctantly takes part in the assault on Leviticus Cornwall's refinery, Cornwall Kerosene and Tar, as well as the robbery of the US Army train carrying payroll and the supplies required to repair the blown-up Bacchus Bridge. What's very interesting to note about this train robbery mission is that when a fire breaks out in one of the train cars, Bill actually picks up John on horseback and rides him to a car closer to the front. This action helps John while he assists Arthur in taking out the soldiers. However, right after Bill jumps on the train, John is shot and wounded and falls off. After Arthur shoots and kills the soldier who shot Sean, Dutch exclaims that he'll ride back and get John. The gang eventually take out all of the soldiers and those in pursuit. After they've seized the money, Bill informs Arthur that the conductor is dead and that they need to get off the train. The gang jump off the train as it arrives at Bacchus Station, and the train then rides off the destroyed Bacchus Bridge tracks and crashes, prompting a very real reaction from Bill.
Jesus. We're alive, just about.
They turn around and begin to head back to camp, but Dutch, Micah, and Joe arrive on horseback. Arthur immediately asks about John. Dutch begins to answer, but then Micah cuts in and says that he didn't make it, and that a patrol killed him. Arthur's reaction is one of disbelief and even skepticism. And finally, after Arthur has learned the truth from lead Pinkerton agent Andrew Milton that the Pinkertons picked up Micah following the gang's return from Guarma, and he became an informant, he returns to camp, confronts Micah, and reveals the truth. Yet in the middle of this, Bill exclaims, "John?" Yet it's not in a hostile tone. After helping John during the train robbery, Bill is surprised to see John. Yet Bill isn't angry or accusatory. This again is a demonstration of how torn Bill is. He's torn between Dutch and his brothers in the gang. John then arrives back at camp, interrupting a very climactic moment, clutching his wounded shoulder while yelling at Dutch that he left him. Dutch tries to make a lame excuse that he had no choice, but after Susan Grimshaw takes Arthur's side and tells Micah to drop his gun, Javier interrupts and exclaims that Pinkertons are coming. Susan is momentarily distracted by this, and Micah shoots and kills her. Dutch then draws both of his revolvers, aims them at both Arthur and Micah, and exclaims, "Who is with me and who is against me?" Micah, Skeet, and Joe very quickly and opportunistically scurry behind Dutch, while unfortunately Bill and Javier also do the same, while Arthur pleads with them to think for themselves. And you can't help but notice that Javier is aiming his revolver straight up in the air. But then, the voice of a Pinkerton agent yells at them to put their guns down, followed by a gunshot. Dutch and those behind him flee, while Arthur and John take cover. However, with the fall and total collapse of the Vanderlyn gang, Bill and Javier did indeed think for themselves. Following Arthur and John's escape from Beaver Hollow and the Pinkerton agents, Arthur would eventually convince John to flee and meet up with Abigail, Jack, Sadie, and Tilly while he fights off the Pinkertons. While Arthur is taking out the pursuing Pinkertons, he is ambushed by Micah. Arthur and Micah have a prolonged fistfight, and despite Arthur literally dying, he holds his own against Micah, who can't even beat up and defeat a dying Arthur. Dutch eventually arrives and breaks up the fight as Arthur is crawling towards and trying to reach a gun. Dutch, now completely untrustworthy of Micah, does not leave with him despite Micah's pleas to do so. But Dutch just leaves the both of them, including of course his once close friend, whom he not only called his son, but were also together for decades. Dutch just leaves Arthur to die and doesn't even say goodbye to him. Regardless, Bill and Javier weren't there. They left Dutch. They did not flee Beaver Hollow with Dutch, Micah, and Cleet and Joe when the Pinkertons attacked. The two men finally began to think for themselves and did the right thing by leaving Dutch for good. In the end, in a way, his own particular way, Bill chose to be free of Dutch. Neither Bill Williamson nor Javier Escuela are seen or heard from in both parts of the epilogue in Red Dead Redemption 2. The only thing we know for certain in the epilogue is that in 1907, Bill is still a fugitive and has gone underground. There are absolutely no traces of Bill in New Austin during the epilogue, and in fact, the state is dominated by the Del Lobos in 1907, a Mexican-based gang that has since spread its operations into the US and has recruited Americans into its ranks. Although there is no concrete answer as to where Bill is during this time, it is certainly plausible that Bill could be hiding out in Mexico with Javier. Sometime between the years 1907 and 1911, Bill would re-emerge within the United States and specifically New Austin. The Del Lobo gang, which has a very heavy presence in New Austin during both parts of Red Dead Redemption 2's epilogue, are nowhere to be seen or heard in Red Dead Redemption. Unless of course the Del Lobos have become the Bandidos, a small gang in Red Dead Redemption that is active within Rio Bravo and Casa Madrugada and shares very similar outfits to the Del Lobos. Regardless, it is certainly plausible that Bill not only could have been hiding out in Mexico with Javier, seeing as they are both wanted men in several American states, but it is also plausible that the inevitable emergence of the Williamson gang was responsible for the decline of the Del Lobos. Nonetheless, at some point Bill returned and was completely alone. Bill was still a wanted man by the authorities in several states and had no more brothers and sisters. There is no doubt that Bill, isolated, alienated, alone, and scared in the searing and scorching heat of New Austin, would eventually find himself surrounded not by supportive and good-natured sisters and brothers, guided by the wisdom of Hosea and Arthur, in a friendly and non-threatening environment. Instead, Bill would eventually find himself surrounded by some of the most depraved and sadistic criminals within the United States. There was no more Arthur, Lenny, Uncle, Hosea, Karen, Mary Beth, and the like. Bill, a wanted criminal on the run, most likely found himself hiding out in the absolute squalor and decrepit Fort Mercer, with the scorching New Austin sun and heat pressing down upon him, surrounded by evil degenerates and abusing alcohol, and clearly not eating or living right as Bill has lost a lot of weight and is considerably gaunt, lean, and haggard in Red Dead Redemption. Obviously, there is no camp cook like Simon Pearson preparing meals for Bill and the others. The objective material conditions that Bill would ultimately find himself within must have been prevalent for a considerable amount of time, as Bill would ultimately consolidate a very large and powerful gang that would eventually run roughshod over the entire state of New Austin, becoming the state's most dominant and powerful gang, while Bill would become both feared and respected throughout the state. It would be in these absolutely brutal conditions that Bill would dramatically degenerate into something he always feared. Bill would unfortunately and ultimately suffer the same tragic fate as his father and lose his mind. The Bill Williamson of the Vanderlyn gang would be no more, and instead, the Bill Williamson which would emerge as the leader of the Williamson gang in New Austin would be a depraved, homicidal maniac. The Williamson gang was essentially a large group of degenerate and unhinged criminals who, instead of focusing on high-stakes robberies and heists, would instead delight in terrorizing the citizens of the state, robbing, maiming, and killing travelers and raiding homesteads, farms, and ranches, while also using sexual violence as a means to violate, terrorize, and traumatize their victims. The Williamson gang is undoubtedly one of the most vile and evil gangs within the Red Dead franchise, alongside the likes of the Skinner brothers, Murphy Brood, and Nightfolk. Finally, being the leader of his own gang was an idea Bill always had in the back of his mind, and something that was no doubt motivated by Bill's desire to prove Dutch wrong, that he wasn't a fool and was in fact a very capable outlaw. While Bill certainly was a capable outlaw and enforcer, It is tragic that he could not ultimately settle down and find a normal life, or at least have more positive and humane company, and not the depraved and sadistic, in his endeavor to lead his own gang.
What about you, Bill? You ever want to run your own bunch?
One day. One day, folk will take orders from me. Trust me, it won't be no laughing matter.
No, definitely not.
Let me tell you, if you were my boss, I'd never laugh again. Not a word of a lie. Never again.
It wouldn't be a laughing matter. Excuse me, Bill.
Starting your own gang, are you, Bill?
Maybe. One day.
I'd like to see that.
This is how much Bill was bullied by Dutch. He becomes defensive with his good friend Lenny, as well as Sean, as Bill felt threatened by their initial laughter. While Lenny, being Bill's friend, clearly understands him and provides Bill with some space to cool down, Arthur also does the same as he understands him. He respectfully recognizes Bill's musings and ideas. Following Red Dead Redemption 2's epilogue, which concluded in 1907, the story continues in Red Dead Redemption in the year 1911. Abigail and Jack have been kidnapped by rogue agents belonging to the Bureau of Investigation. The Bureau of Investigation was in reality an early federal law enforcement agency within the US, and it served as a precursor to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or the FBI. So John, if he wants to see his family again, must now track down and kill or apprehend both Bill Williamson and Javier Escuela for the rogue agents, and in particular the former Pinkerton Detective Agency agent Edgar Ross, who proves himself to be much more depraved and immoral than his would-be mentor in the Pinkerton Detective Agency, Agent Andrew Milton. Regardless, John departs for New Austin and begins his search for Bill Williamson. In the mission Exodus in America, John eventually tracks down Bill to Fort Mercer, the main hideout for Bill's gang. Bill is now a feared criminal throughout the state, who is regarded as the worst bandit in the county, whether it's Hennigan Stead, Cholla Springs, or Gaptooth Ridge. The Williamson gang is the most feared, dangerous, and powerful gang throughout New Austin. Bill has a large number of foot soldiers at his disposal, with some members demonstrating clearly unhinged and depraved behavior. John approaches Fort Mercer's gates and yells out Bill's name, that he's come for him and for him to show himself right now. Shortly afterwards, there is an answer and we hear Bill's voice. Bill tells John to go away now and to not make him kill John. What's fascinating about this first exchange between the two former brothers-in-arms is that Bill doesn't outright kill John nor threaten him with death, but rather Bill wants John to go away. Bill initially doesn't want to harm John and wants him to leave. Even though Red Dead Redemption was released in 2010, long before Red Dead Redemption 2's debut in 2018, the writers definitely wanted to convey here that there's still a trace or flicker of the old Bill, deep down or within him somewhere. This is definitely a recognition of the fact that Bill did not only completed countless jobs with John and fought side by side with him, but also of course that the two men were brothers and friends. This also fits seamlessly with the fact that Bill and Javier chose not to follow Dutch, but instead went their own way and did not want to be a part of hunting down Arthur and John when the Pinkertons raided Beaver Hollow. Bill eventually reveals himself at the top of the fort's walls, armed with a gun and pointed at John.
You must think I was born yesterday. You always did think I was an idiot.
That ain't fair, Bill. You were as my brother. I've come to try to save you.
Oh. Do I look like I need saving?
Bill's insecurities are still apparent as ever, as he accuses John of believing that he was born yesterday and is an idiot. John counters by reasonably observing that Bill's insecure suspicions aren't fair and appeals to the old Bill that they were brothers and that he wants to help and save Bill. Bill, however, scoffs at this, revealing just how much he has changed and specifically degenerated into something else, a completely different person. As Bill shows contempt, two henchmen emerge from either side of Bill, with guns aimed at John.
Bill, please. They want to kill us all. I can help you.
Well, you never tried to save me before. You only seemed to save yourself.
Bill, I implore you think about this.
You implore me? You implore me? You always were one for fancy words.
Bill has undergone a very apparent physical change since we last saw him in 1899 at Beaver Hollow in Roanoke Ridge, New Hanover. Bill is noticeably gaunt and has lost a lot of weight. He also has gray in his beard and seems much more agitated and unhinged. While John could have appealed to Bill much more strongly, perhaps admitting that he should have been there for Bill to help him through his previous troubles in the gang, this isn't the same Bill. The fact that this Bill takes issue with one verb John used while pleading for him to accept his help speaks volumes. Dutch, incidentally, was very articulate as well when he spoke. Regardless, Bill's state of mind is clearly unstable. This new Bill is a broken man, a shell of his former self who is barely recognizable physically, but is clearly someone else now as his mind is broken.
Well, things are different now, John. Now I'm in charge! No more Dutch! And no more you!
Bill's ravaged mind and deranged ego have taken over. This version of Bill is clearly proud of himself, that he's accomplished something, that he is the leader of his own gang now and is reveling in the fact that he is no longer bullied and ridiculed by Dutch. It's a point of pride for the deranged Bill. John, while he could have tried a little bit harder and been more persuasive, nonetheless pleaded with Bill. The government and all of its vast resources wants to eliminate every last surviving member of the Vanderlyn gang. Bill is completely tone deaf and practically living in a bubble when John warns him that the US government is going to kill us all. For instance, in the story's climax, Dutch Vanderlyn's main gang hideout at Couchinet in Tall Trees, West Elizabeth, is stormed by the US Army and his gang is wiped out in no time. The same fate could easily transpire for both Bill and his entire gang. The unhinged Bill is simply too insulated, naive, and arrogant to realize that he and his entire gang will be completely eradicated. He finally insults John by insisting that someone more impressive be sent to find him instead.
I implores you to go back and tell them to send someone just a little bit more impressive next time.
Well?
Oh. Poor John.
John foolishly reaches for his sidearm, despite being outgunned by those who also have the high ground. John is shot and wounded by one of Bill's henchmen. Instead of finishing John off, however, Bill laughs and says, "Poor John," and they leave him lying outside of the gates to Fort Mercer. John is eventually found by Bonnie McFarland and Amos, the lead ranch hand at McFarland's ranch, and brought to a doctor in Armadillo. We next see Bill in the mission Spare the Rod, Spoil the Bandit. John arrives at the Armadillo Sheriff's Office where U.S. Marshal Lee Johnson informs John about a group of bandits that's been getting drunk and murdering settlers. Marshal Johnson and his deputies elaborate that a lone survivor made it to the sheriff's office during the previous night and explain that the same group of bandits struck near Ridgewood Farm and killed the men by burning them alive, while assaulting the women and slicing their throats. John agrees to help and the men ride out. Along the way to Ridgewood Farm, the men discover 2 ambush campsites in which there were no survivors. They arrive at Ridgewood Farm and there are initially no signs of life or any kind of activity. While John finds nothing in the shed and outhouse, they find the barn boarded up, which Marshal Johnson finds suspicious. He orders the men to open it, while having their guns ready. John shoots all of the boards off the door to the barn and the deputies open it. Inside the barn, the men come face to face with the sheer depravity and horror of a degenerated Bill Williamson. The barn is littered with corpses and blood, while a naked body is hanging and slightly swinging. Then, suddenly, a survivor emerges and explains that bandits took them hostage and are now holding her surviving family members as hostages inside the farmhouse. The men immediately turn their attention to the house and start to head in the house's direction. However, some of the bandits have emerged from inside the home and start shooting at John and the others. John takes out the bandits on the front porch. Then Marshal Johnson and John storm inside the home and take out 2 more men on the ground floor, before making their way to the second floor where the last 3 bandits remain. After John has killed the remaining bandits, the men meet up with the survivors at the shed. One of the survivors says that others from Ridgewood Farm tried to escape by fleeing southwards, but they were pursued by more bandits. The men then ride off looking for the remaining bandits. Deputy Eli asks if they might be heading to Fort Mercer, and Marshal Johnson points out that they could be, as the sadistic massacre looks like the work of the Williamson gang. When asked by Deputy Jonah, John elaborates on why he's pursuing Bill Williamson.
Let's just say he's the currency in a complicated transaction.
What the hell you talking about?
Some people I have the displeasure of knowing want him dead.
Yeah, why does that involve you?
We used to run in a gang together. It was once like family.
If this is how you treat your family, I'd hate to see what you do to your enemies.
That was a lifetime ago. And bearing in mind, he's left me for dead the last 2 times I've seen him. I'm about figuring we've moved past it.
As the men approach the ruins of Mercer Station, Marshal Johnson spots a group of men above on the hillside. Even before the shootout begins, both Bill and John don't want to kill one another. Despite how far gone Bill is, again, there's still that flicker of the old Bill somewhere deep down inside of him, and makes one last plea for John to walk away.
You just walk away now, John. I didn't kill you before, but I sure as shit will now!
Get yourself down here, Bill. You know you ain't man enough to stop me. You know I don't want to kill you, but I will.
You always did have a high opinion of yourself, John. Dutch always said you were an arrogant son of a bitch. I guess he was about right. Get him, boys!
Regardless, the shooting breaks out and the men take cover in the ruins of the train station. With the men pinned down, John eventually emerges from the ruins and flanks the bandits outside, while more attack on horseback, but John quickly takes them out as well. One of Bill's men, Norman Deek, survives the shootout and is taken into custody to the Armadillo Sheriff's Office. The depravity and viciousness of Bill and his gang is further demonstrated in the mission, hanging Bonnie McFarlane. John finds a distraught Drew McFarlane, who is deeply upset that his daughter Bonnie has been missing from their family's ranch. When confronted by Drew, John explains that he hasn't seen Bonnie since the McFarlane's barn was set on fire by the Williamson gang. As Marshal Johnson tries to comfort Drew, a hostile voice calls from outside the sheriff's office.
Oh, Mr. Marshal! Mr. Marshal! Come out, wherever you are!
Who the hell's that?
Hey, buddy! That'd be your next looking mare.
Even better! Good day, Mr. McFarlane!
Get down from that horse, boy, or I'll shoot.
I wouldn't recommend that, mister. Not if Drew McFarlane wants to see his Bonnie back in one piece. Hey, Mr. McFarlane!
This is a nice girl you got there. Get out from there. You know, part of me's got to thinking I should just marry her myself. Give her a baby and that.
What do you want?
That's better. I want Norman Deek. I want him set free. Then you get your daughter back, mister.
We don't do deals with outlaws, boy.
Yeah, you do! Let's not waste each other's time pretending otherwise. Old government themselves ain't much more than a bunch of crooks. This is the land of opportunity, mister. And I'm giving you the opportunity to get your daughter back before 15 friends of mine take out all their anger and their loneliness on her. Where the hell is she?
Where is she, boy?
Bring Deke up to Tumbleweed in a couple hours. And don't get no funny ideas, or I will slit that whore's throat myself! You boys have a pleasant afternoon. Yeah!
What do we do?
This member of the Williamson gang seems to provide an accurate portrayal of the current Bill and the gang itself. Completely unhinged, depraved, sadistic, and delighting in both threatening and inflicting violence, Bill and his gang are basically a group of unhinged, homicidal maniacs with absolutely no traces of human decency. John advises U.S. Marshal Johnson that they should do what they've been asked to do and ride to Tumbleweed with Norman Deek. John, Marshal Johnson, and deputies Eli and Jonah ride for Tumbleweed. Upon their arrival at Tumbleweed, they begin to approach the abandoned town's gates. 3 of Bill's men approach and reveal there's no deal to be made, that they won't exchange Bonnie McFarlane for Norman Deek, and they shamelessly killed their own fellow gang member while opening fire on John and the others. John fights his way into the center of the town as Bonnie is hanging from a rope and about to die. John gets to Bonnie just in time and saves her life. The rest of Bill's men are killed and the men return Bonnie to Drew. Bill and his men are essentially cowards. They prey on the innocent and those who are unable to defend themselves. They also turn on each other, with John, Marshal Johnson, and the deputies riding down upon Fort Mercer following the discovery of the massacre at Ridgewood Farm. Bill had some of his gang members attack John and Marshal Johnson, but chose to flee and did not join the fight. Then at Tumbleweed, Bill has his own men kill Norman Deek in order to lure John and the Marshal into a trap. With the assistance of Marshal Johnson, the Armadillo deputies, con man Nigel West Dickens, dysfunctional alcoholic Irish, and crazed treasure hunter Seth Briers, John is able to infiltrate Fort Mercer and massacre the Williamson gang with a Maxim gun. Bill, however, is nowhere to be found and has presumably fled the United States for Mexico.
I won. He says, Bill's already run off to Mexico yesterday morning.
You'll never get him. Javier Escuela. He's gone to see Javier Escuela.
John eventually tracks Bill down much later in the story, in Mexico. In the mission and appointed time, John eventually learns that Bill has been hiding out at the governor's mansion in Escalera, under the protection of Colonel Agustin Allende, the authoritarian governor who rules the state of Nuevo Preso with an iron fist. Once more, Bill refuses to face John and flees in a stagecoach with Colonel Allende, as John and the rebels storm both the settlement and the governor's mansion. A short distance away, the stagecoach is eventually brought to a halt, and Colonel Allende tries to save himself by turning on Bill and offering him up to John in exchange for his freedom. It is here that John and Bill share one last exchange. Bill initially accuses John of always being weak-minded, but John counters to Bill that he allowed Dutch to drive him insane through his incessant bullying and Bill never standing up to him. Bill then says that Dutch wanted him dead and that they all wanted John dead, which of course isn't true. However, Allende's last-ditch effort completely fails as John answers Bill that he's going after Dutch next and that he'll outlive all of them. He finally kills his old brother in arms as Allende is also taken out. The fact that a degenerated Bill Williamson was gunned down and killed by his old friend and brother, John Marston, just outside Escalera in Nuevo Preso, Mexico, is a tremendous tragedy. Both men were also once disadvantaged youth who hailed from the lower socioeconomic strata of 19th century American society, but found a home and family within the Vanderlyn gang. Yet both men, like all of the members of the gang, were deceived and manipulated by Dutch, and Bill, along with Javier, was ultimately coerced by Dutch to temporarily turn on John and Arthur. Yet despite Dutch's efforts, both Bill and Javier just couldn't hunt down and kill their brothers. Until, of course, Bill suffered his horrifying degeneration and met the same unfortunate and tragic fate as his father. Bill and Javier both should have fled with John in the end, and met up with Abigail, Jack, and the others. However, the coercion and presence of Dutch proved to be too much for both of them, and while they ultimately chose to be free of Dutch, they never stood up to him like Arthur and John. Bill Williamson demonstrated throughout Red Dead Redemption 2 that he was in fact an intelligent, caring, and thoughtful member of the gang who was very considerate and a good person. Bill formed great friendships with Arthur, Uncle, Karen, Mary Beth, Hosea, and Lenny. Bill was a decent guy and overall, a good person who, despite a rough and rugged exterior, in which he sometimes came across as off-putting or aggravating, his positive features would ultimately come through. Bill really shined and showed the best of himself when he interacted and spent time with his gangmates, or better yet, his adopted family. Bill's fate is a genuine shame and tragedy, yet for a time in the Vanderlyn gang, he showed his true self.
Leave the light on. Leave the light on. Just leave the light on. Yeah, leave the light on. If I'll ever change, been dreaming of Nashville, Tennessee, while the cold here in Sweden got the best of me. Well, haven't I got better things to think about than that? Like deadlines, rents due, bills pile up, family day in, day out, the clock's mocking me, getting old, oh God, the kids deserve so much more than this, gotta get rich. You said I never could change, I thought I never could change. They said I never could change. Damn right I never would. Leave the light on. Leave the light on.
Uncle Bill, how are things?
Leave the light.
Can't complain.
I bet you're happy.
Mr. Smith?
Just leave the light on.
This is Gus.
Bill.
Give me the information.
No! I'm running this. You want in?
Well, you?
Me. I can rob a bank just as well as any of you.
Sure. Maybe. Now let me have a think. This boy is a killer. All of you. A killer. We robbed the stage, Arthur. The boy's idea.
Good work, gentlemen. Good work.